Welcome to the Future of Real Estate, your source for local real estate news and information. I'm Daryl Baskin of the Baskin Real Estate Specialists at McGraw Realtors, 258-2600. This is going to be a really great show, though, and I know that because Carolyn Gartside with Pinnacle Mortgage is in charge of the questions. 15 questions every buyer wants to know about realtors and real estate. Now, here's what Carolyn did. She pulled on me what I always pull on them, which is, I've got questions, and you're going to have to answer them, but I'm not going to tell you what they are before the show. You notice, though, that I had no reaction when you said that. I was just going to play it cool, like, I can handle it.
You've been trying to sneak a peek, though.
No, I have not. I don't even care. You know how smart I am. I'm just going to
Are you ready?
whiz right through these.
Are you ready?
I think so, but they better not be hard.
No, they're not. They're not. But if you'll try to answer them so that we can get through them, because these are questions that young kids
There are 15 of them. That's a lot to cover.
Trying to buy houses that they just don't understand. They don't know. They really don't know the answers to these questions.
I want to say this, though, before we start answering, because I don't even know what they are. Many times it takes a long time to answer these questions because you can't take one general answer, which is what I'm going to be giving, and apply that to every situation. What really matters in real estate, and this is where people get burned a lot, is they just take something that was advice for someone else and they apply it to their situation, and they didn't realize what other options were available, and they might have been unhappy with the outcome. So
you're talking.
I'm talking, but I'm eating up your time. Eh?
Okay. Okay, number one, in 10, 15 words or less.
No way.
Yes, yes. How do you make your money?
How do we make? We sell houses.
Okay.
Realtors.
Who pays you?
The seller.
Okay.
Can I give more than that?
No.
Realtors are paid by the seller.
Okay. Do you work for buyers and sellers at the same time?
Yes. And that has to be a careful answer because that is what under our current law would be transaction brokerage. Okay. The most unhappy buyers and sellers are the ones that didn't understand who was representing them.
Okay.
So make sure there's a single party broker that represents you, whether you're a buyer or a seller, that's single party. Then there's transaction brokerage, and they may be representing both sides of the transaction at the same time.
Okay.
So they're really not working for you.
Okay. What does
You're making me, these are too short.
You're talking too much.
Go ahead.
15 words or less. I know, he is. What does it cost to list your home?
That is a variable question.
15 words.
I've already used some of them.
I know.
You will find the you will find phrases, those don't count towards 15. Most of the time, you are looking at a price between 5 and 7%.
Okay, sounds great.
Depending on where where your house is located, how much it costs, what kind of services you expect, and there is no set commission.
Okay. Does it cost to go look at homes?
Gas.
Does it cost the buyer?
If you don't have a realtor, gas is very expensive. If you have a realtor, ride with them, and it's not going to cost you a thing.
If I look at a house with you, do I have to use you as my realtor?
If you look at a house with me, I'm going to make sure we have an understanding up front that I'm not in this for fun, to drive people all over town and just show them houses.
Yes or no?
So I will expect you to buy a house with me.
Okay.
But to call me and say, yeah, Daryl, I want to talk to you about looking at houses, maybe show me a few, let's see how you work. That's kind of an interview process, and that doesn't cost anything.
Okay. What education do you have?
Kind of like the pre-spinal exam.
What education do you have to become a realtor?
That is, I love telling that story, and I cannot do this in 15 words or less.
How many hours do you take, Daryl?
I think now it's 40 for your provisional, and then another 40 after you've been in business a year.
Yes.
You have to have another 40 to keep it, to hold on to your license.
Okay. Okay. When I buy
to get that...
Quit talking. They want to know these answers.
When you are out of school, out of real estate school,
yes,
doesn't tell you anything about how to sell houses.
Okay. When I buy a home, how do I know if there are... You answered it twice. When I buy a home, how do I know if there are defects in the home?
It's tough because you're supposed to get a state mandated disclosure, something that the seller fills out. But what if the seller lied? The seller is not a property expert necessarily, a repair expert, so what if they didn't know? It's very important that you have inspections
Okay.
so that you get all your information from different angles, and as a home buyer, a consumer, you can make the decision that is best for you and based on the facts that you've gathered.
Can you show me a house if you don't have it listed?
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
one of the things that our buyer specialists do, is they
Okay.
work, we were talking about who works for you. There's a transaction broker. You're smiling because I keep going on. You can't shut me up. I ought to run for office.
Yes.
There's the buyer broker, the specialist that works
Yes.
for you as a buyer, and then there's the transaction broker, the seller's broker, and they don't really care. They're just trying to get you to buy. I have to interrupt you.
Okay.
Time for a commercial break. But when we come back, these are excellent questions. I told you it was going to be a great show because Carolyn was in charge of the questions. You're watching The Future of Real Estate, your source for local real estate news and information. I'm Daryl Baskin of the Baskin Real Estate Specialists. 258-2600. But if you need to get a loan, call Pinnacle Mortgage and ask for Carolyn. 481-6833. We'll be back right after this. Some more questions from Carolyn Gartside. These are really good questions. Where did you get all of these?
I thought of mine. People ask us these questions.
You get these
People come in for a loan
questions all the time.
application and they're afraid to call a realtor. They think it costs money to go out and have you drive them around and show them how.
You look nicer than I do, so they feel more comfortable asking you.
Flattery will not get you anywhere.
15 questions every buyer wants to know about realtors and real estate. Carolyn Gartside, we've gotten through about 10.
Yes?
You actually had 16.
Yes, I did. What is the difference? Now remember, 15 words or less. Let's keep it down.
That is very difficult.
I know. What is the difference between an appraisal and an optional inspection, like a structural or EMP?
An appraisal? Well, an appraisal is determining the value of the house. The optional inspection is determining if there's anything wrong with the structure, how it's constructed, all the,
Okay.
But let me tell you something that is very confusing.
Young kids come in and they think because we do an appraisal that's all the inspection.
And that came out of the old days when FHA used to go out and give a list of requirements. Well, anymore, the insurance companies have more at stake than FHA does, and so all of these other sources have come in and made all these requirements, and FHA's backed off. So don't count on your appraisal for that anymore.
Where can I find the real estate code of ethics, if there is such a thing?
If there is such a thing, that's funny. You know, I don't know where you can find it for sure. I know Realtor.org and Realtor.com has a lot of that information. They may even be in the Real Estate Resource Center at DarylBaskin.com. You'll find all kinds of information there if you click on Resource Center. Even stuff from the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission, which is a different organization. That's what governs realtors. Then you have the real estate boards, and that's what all the realtors belong to, which has the code of ethics.
How do I know what type of loan to get when I buy a home?
You really need to have a good loan officer. And by this, you've heard me rant on this show about having a good loan officer, not a loan salesperson. A loan officer is somebody that, and I let you have that title because you do a good job of advising people. But some people are just loan salespeople, and they're going to sell them on the loan that puts the most money in their company's pocket and not most helpful to the buyer.
What is the difference between a real estate agent and a real estate broker?
Well, technically, we don't have real estate agents anymore because we've gotten rid of agency. But for all practical purposes, as a consumer, the real estate agent is typically a salesperson that works underneath a broker. The broker has more responsibility to the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission, and it means you've had a little more training, more experience, and you've kind of signed up for that extra responsibility, and you're responsible for all the agents that work for you. So it's great to have a broker, but a lot of salespeople are really up on things, and they know what they're doing.
Can you negotiate the price of a bank-owned home or a foreclosed property?
You can negotiate the price of anything that's sold by someone who will negotiate. The interesting thing is every seller has different circumstances. Sometimes they're going to be, I have several that have sold for full price lately. The seller said, I'm not going to negotiate. And some of them said, Daryl, we've got to get rid of this property. We're going to take anything that looks like a decent offer, so just bring us an offer.
My next question. Is there a percentage a seller will mark up the price of a home? For example, if the asking price is of $114,000, is an initial offer of $95,000 too low?
Do you remember the political era where fuzzy math was a buzzword? Listing prices are fuzzy math. They're just that. the value of a house is based on what you can buy in the current market. So if somebody asks 150, but you can go down the street and buy another house for 100,000, then it's not worth 150. It's worth 100,000. So really base it on the logic of what's there. And emotion, you should like the house. Once you've fallen in love with it, make sure the logic says that it's really worth that, and there's not anything better that's available. And it's okay to pay full price if it's a good house. It's okay to pay more than full price.
Sure. Okay, I have a family friend who is a realtor. I like her, she's a help, but she gives me one price to sell my home for, and I think it's too low. So I called another realtor who suggested a price more in line with my expectations. Who do I choose?
You got to be careful for people who are buying listings right now. And that's someone who looks at you and tells you everything that you want to hear because they want you to like them. And what you need from a listing broker is somebody who's going to tell you facts, and they're not writing the check to buy your house. They can say, oh, it's worth $300,000. But if it's only worth $250,000, you're going to be really hard pressed to find a buyer that's going to go in and pay you $300,000. So you're not selling it to the realtor. Make sure that whatever the realtor says, when I walk into somebody's house, I'm going to tell them what I think, but I'm also going to back it up with the information of why I decided that. Okay. And then that seller makes the decision.
All right. One more. I have to make a choice between an updated home in an older neighborhood or a newer home in a more modern neighborhood. The home in the older neighborhood has almost everything I want and is much larger. But which makes the most sense as an investment?
You know, those are so hard to answer because it's what people want that really matters. Do you want what an old home has to offer, which is typically large trees, an established area? Why do people buy homes around Utica Square? They don't buy them typically because they're brand new. If they're brand new, they're very expensive, of course. But many times if we're selling to a younger person who's not really experienced with home ownership, we suggest that they consider the benefits of a new home because there's less maintenance. There's, you know, you're adjusting to home ownership, and you might not be surprised by as many of those costly repair items, etc. But weigh that, and your buyer specialist should be able to help point out the pros and cons of having either.
Okay, you did very well.
Carolyn,
Yes.
those were wonderful.
Well, you know, next month I'll have 16 more.
Get them.
Okay.
Get them. Then maybe people will actually watch the show.
They don't?
Oh, they do when you're asking the questions.
Okay.
You're watching The Future of Real Estate. I'm Darrell Baskin of the Baskin Real Estate Specialist. If you're looking for a loan, Carolyn Gartside at Pinnacle Mortgage, 481-6833. There's a lady that's going to help you make the right decisions. I can vouch for because she does that for my clients. 481-6833.